Welcome to I Care, I Volunteer. I'm your host, Alima Hotaki. The focus of today's show is on finding the right fit when it comes to volunteering. And to kick things off, I'm joined by the lovely Ebony Wright again, as well as Shilpa Kapadia, the referral team member of Volunteer MBC. And of course, to our viewers, you can follow the conversation on Twitter, Volunteer MBC, as well as on Facebook. It's like Volunteer MBC. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
So we'll start off with you, Ebony, again. Can you tell me a little bit about Volunteer MBC and the services it provides?
Yes, so Volunteer MBC is the local volunteer center for Mississauga, Brampton and Caledon. And one of our core services that we provide is a referral matching service. So anyone that's looking to volunteer in the community can consult with us by walk-in, phone or email. And for volunteer engagement professionals, we also host a lot of workshops and training to help them in their role.
And I'll bring it to you now, Shilpa. How did you get started? Because I know you used Volunteer MBC,
Yes.
which is kind of seen like it's not dating, but it's kind of like a matchmaking service when it
Yes.
comes to volunteering. So how did you get started?
Well, most of my work experience was in customer service. So when I started looking for volunteer opportunities, I came across the website. And it's a very simple, self-directed search that you do. And it worked out great for me because they had opportunities for volunteer engagement assistants, which were again client-facing. So I could use the similar skill sets and work towards just matching exactly what the way I found the volunteer opportunity.
And where did you end up?
Oh, as a volunteer engagement assistant.
Oh, so
in a client servicing role, and now I'm helping other volunteers find the right match. And but it's a great service, and it's fairly simple to use. And it was great for me.
And when you first started using it, did you feel like maybe initially the search brought up a lot of different matches, or is it?
Not a lot of different matches, because to some extent, if you have a clarity as to what it is that you want to do, what sort of skills you bring to the table, and what sort of service are you willing to offer, and what are the causes you're passionate about. That kind of narrows down the search, and we have a very detailed areas of interest, which also help you and prompt you, towards the right opportunities.
And when you first started in your new role, how did you know it was the right fit? What just clicked?
They were very organized about how where the training was. We were offered enough training. Mm-hmm. And the whole process, the orientation, they walk you through the whole process very well. And then, of course, then after that, the opportunities are limitless.
And do you sometimes find when you have these matches, I'm just trying to understand exactly how the process works, and either one of you can answer to this. Do you feel like sometimes when it becomes a lot about the person who does the volunteering, that it becomes a very one-sided search, whereas it's more about matching your own skills and what you're looking for instead of those on the receiving end?
I would have to say it's more of an exploratory search, because especially within our referral service, when we're discussing various opportunities with an individual, we talk about their strengths, we talk about their objectives, and we try to give them a background on what the organization can offer. And what's so great about our database is that for every opportunity, it lists the duties that are available. So you get a first-hand picture of what it is that you'll be able to do. There's always links to the organization to read more about the organization. So I think it's really exploratory for the person that's looking for a volunteer opportunity, because initially they'd probably come in thinking they'd have a few ideas in mind, but just when you go to the website and are able to realize how many opportunities there are out there in the community, it makes it that much easier.
And also, is it a very computerized sort of matchmaking system where you just type in, I'm interested in this, it's like a questionnaire? Is that how it works, or do you sit down with somebody and then they try to match your interests with a specific organization?
So it works either way. So someone who's very comfortable with browsing online can browse online, but if someone would like to kind of bounce ideas off, it's best to come in and be able to sit down and discuss with us, and then we can provide the recommended opportunities by email.
And how successful is actually the computer system? Do you ever have mismatches?
I applied through the computer, and it was it worked out great for me. And at the same time, though, after applying through the computer, I also met with someone, and they kind of, you know, whatever little gaps you have in your understanding of the position, they fill in the gaps, and that gives you a certain amount of clarity as to where you're headed.
And in terms of flexibility, a lot of the organizations that you do work with, are they very flexible? Because what if somebody only has one day of a week, or they can only show up on specific holidays? How does the system kind of adapt or cater to that?
And I think that's usually the common misconception. So with some roles, it may say that they're requiring volunteers 2 days a week or 3 days a week, but organizations also understand that as a volunteer, you're giving your time, and you're maybe also working or going to school. So there's always room to kind of negotiate what schedule works for you, but also for the organization.
And what happens in cases, for example, where a person really doesn't have a specific skill, but they just have an interest, but they don't necessarily have the skill to back anything up? How do you often match people like that?
Well, we talk a lot about what their background experience is, but also what skills they're looking to gain is very important. And I can speak for myself. When I joined Volunteer MBC as a volunteer engagement assistant, I know I wanted to work with people, but I didn't know what skills I had. And so I picked a role that had that interaction, and that's all I wanted. And through that, I realized that I had skills. So I think even for people who don't necessarily have a specific interest or can identify their skill, just simply going through the website and being able to select just one thing, it can take you anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of like finding, well, not necessarily the love of your life, but kind of like it sparks like a big interest in you. And how long did it take you for the entire process? Was it like immediate, like after like a month, a week?
I'd say, so for me, at first when I wanted to search volunteering, I did what I think some people do, which is I just Googled some organizations that came to mind, and then I came across Volunteer MBC on Twitter. So it was really cool to see that there was one-stop shop which listed all the organizations in Peel where you could volunteer. And from the day I applied, it took maybe about 2 weeks, I'd say, to start volunteering, and it just went on from there, and still volunteering.
And where do you see yourself going? Do you feel like like Volunteer MBC and the entire search engine, do you feel like it gives you enough flexibility if you ever want to cross over? For example, because let's say you've been volunteering for 2 or 3 years, you gain a new set of skills, and you're like, you know what, now I'm actually interested maybe in going here.
But I did that almost 6 months into my volunteering role. After being a volunteer engagement assistant, I realized that there was a lot more scope for me within Volunteer MBC as well. And at that time, they were looking for somebody to coordinate their volunteer outreach activities. And I just, I took a shot at it, and it turned out great. So now I'm not only, I'm also in yet an administrative capacity as well. So I find that I have a varied scope of activities here, which keeps me engaged, keeps me occupied, and it just, enhances my skill sets as well.
It definitely does. I can just imagine, because you grow. It seems very enriching, and this is something that in the past people would volunteer, but it was almost you'd go and find an organization on your own, and then of course the internet came along, but this almost makes it so much easier because you don't have to do a lot of work. Someone else almost does the work for you, and it's all free, and it looks at all of your interests. Anyway, we are out of time, but this has been a very engaging conversation. And of course, to our viewers, you can join the conversation on Twitter, Volunteer MBC, and on Facebook, it's like Volunteer MBC. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back to I Care, I Volunteer. Joining me now is Brittany Niemand, Volunteer Engagement Coordinator with the Canadian Cancer Society, Georgetown Dufferin Peel Unit, as well as Anna Sanga, Screening Saves Lives Coordinator, and Shekla Kabir, a volunteer with the organization. Welcome to the show, girls.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, lovely. And just to our viewers out there, you can also join the conversation, and we'd love to hear your feedback on Twitter, Volunteer MBC, as well as on Facebook. It's like Volunteer MBC. So Anna, or whichever one wants to take this question first, tell me a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, so the Canadian Cancer Society is Canada's largest non-for-profit cancer-related organization. Across Ontario, we have over 60,000 volunteers that we're so proud of and work so hard with. On a daily basis, we work towards our vision of just creating a world where no Canadian will ever fear cancer.
And what sort of services do you add to cancer patients or family affected by cancer?
Yeah, so we have really extensive programs and services. So we have our transportation service for our Wheels of Hope program, where volunteer drivers will actually drive cancer patients to and from their appointments. We actually also have the Screening Saves Lives program, which Anne is a part of.
Yep, so we promote screening with South Asian communities in the region of Peel. So that's for breast, cervical, and colon cancer screening. And Inshallah is actually health ambassador with the program as well. We do advocacy as well, a lot of event day volunteers that we look for, peer support, so kind of all aspects of the cancer continuum, from like prevention to kind of the end where, you know, recovery and support groups.
And how important are volunteers in helping you to run this program, the Screening Saves Lives?
The whole program, the whole premise of the program relies on volunteers. So we provide you with the training and the knowledge that you need to know about cancer screening, but it's the volunteer then goes to their community, their social networks, to tell them about the importance of getting screened, talking to your doctor, and following the right protocol. So it's all a peer-to-peer program. We currently have 38 health ambassadors that we have trained, and we're always looking for more great people, inshallah, to come out and join the program.
And Shekla, why did you get involved specifically with the Canadian Cancer Society? Is there somebody in your family that might have been affected by cancer?
There are a few things that I joined Canadian Cancer Society. I'm interested in cancer awareness, its treatment and studies. Also, I want to do my PhD in cancer research. And I learned about Canadian Cancer Society through Volunteer MBC. And I applied, and Anna interviewed me, and she gave me the training for health ambassador. She gave me a lot of material, the pamphlets for distribution, and then I started to participate in community events as a health ambassador.
And that's a very noble cause to actually want to help cancer patients. Do you feel that through your volunteering efforts, have you learned a lot, for example, that you know will help you in your PhD that you probably wouldn't have been, had that knowledge if it weren't for the volunteer opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. I learned new skills. I gained a lot of knowledge and experience as well. And I got to know about South Asian community specifically, that how much they know, they're aware about cancer, and how much they really need to know about it. Especially screening. And and there are so many barriers I got to know, which was in my family also, like shyness and ladies. So
I come from a very, very similar background, and to almost have to get screened and to expose yourself in that area, especially, it is. And also in terms of when you have volunteers, for example, who can speak many different languages, do you feel like that also helps?
Definitely, that's like language is one of the barriers, and that level of trust, right? So if your friend is telling you that screening is important and it actually could, detect cancer cells before they become, so precancerous cells, you're more likely to listen, right? So like women, we exchange great recipes or, good stores to go. So if we say, you know what, this test is good for you, you're more likely then to go ahead and act on that.
That's so true. So diversifying it is a lot easier. And like you said, I know my mom, if she, for example, hears somebody of her own background having done something, she's more likely to do it than versus if just you hear it on the news or something, where it's like, whatever, they say that. But when you, like you said, when you have that personal connection, it makes it completely, very, very different. It changes the entire dynamics of it. So, and also tell me this, because we're dealing with people that are terminally ill in some circumstances, circumstances in some cases. How do you train, for example, maybe Brittany, you'd like to answer to this, how do you train your volunteers to have that, to develop that sort of sensitivity, that tact? How does...
Yeah, for sure. So it all depends on the role that you're going to be involved with at the society. That depends on the type of training you get. So for example, our transportation drivers, our volunteer drivers, they are taking our clients to and from the hospital, and some of them are very sick. And so they have more of an extensive training, and we do one-on-one support with them as well, so that they know that there might be different situations that they might encounter, different conversations that they're going to have to be strong and be able to go through. And as staff and volunteers, we're here to support each other and just make sure that everyone's comfortable when they're out in the community representing the society.
And what sort of roles, aside from, let's say, the screening program, what other sort of roles can volunteers fill with the Canadian Cancer Society?
Yeah, we have so many. Like I said, the volunteer driver, that's a really big one, especially within the Peel region. It's a really great program, Wheels of Hope. We also have a peer-to-peer program where if you're a cancer survivor, you can actually connect with someone who is currently going through their own cancer journey, and you can be that great support for them. Then we have our amazing event day volunteers, where, for example, we have our signature Relay for Life event, and we need
Daffodil Month, pink ribbons. So you come out and you're supporting the cause for that time that you can commit.
And then 50-50 event as well.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
And Shayla, like for you, for example, what has been more of a standout experience for you since since you started volunteering with this organization?
Yeah, it was really good. The thing is that I'm a very social person. I really like meeting people, and I met a lot of different people from all aspects of life, different beliefs, different religions. I went in different places in all over GTA. I'm new in Canada, so it was really interesting to go to different places and meet people and help them and giving them awareness about cancer. And I gained a lot of knowledge and experience with that.
Is there also sometimes like a misconception when it comes to people who have cancer, that a lot of times that they going through chemotherapies, or they're less likely to engage in conversations, or are they actually like they want people to talk to, somebody to kind of like share their experiences with?
I think what the society, we're very sensitive to that, right? So everyone's journey is unique and different, right? So say the same two people with the same type of cancer, it could be totally different outcomes, different treatments, different experiences. So that's where the peer support, you kind of can, if you opt for that and you want that kind of support, you can opt in, or your caregiver can opt in and say, you know what, I don't know how to help this individual in my family. Could I talk to someone who's been through that? So that's where you put the prompts in of, your age, the type of cancer, and your unique experience, and then you're connected with someone who's able to support you with that.
And can you just quickly throw out your website in terms of if our viewers would like to get involved?
Yeah, so you can go to www.cancer.ca, and there's a Volunteer Now button on there, and you'll be directed right to me. So I'll talk to all of you guys.
Out of time, so thank you so much.
Thank
you.
We'll
be right back after the break.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back to I Care, I Volunteer. Joining me now is Kelly McLaughlin, the coordinator of volunteers at Hot House Hospice, as well as Alan Gamble and Brenda Jones, both volunteers at Hot House Hospice. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off with your organization, the Hospice, and what sort of services does it offer?
Well, we've been around since 1985, which a lot of people don't know, and we service people in Mississauga and Brampton, and we're an end-of-life service. People that Heart House Hospice deals with have terminal illnesses or end-of-life issues, and that's what we deal with at Heart House Hospice. Yeah.
It's very interesting because this is a very sensitive topic. We're dealing with death. So in terms of the volunteers coming in, is there a specific age group that you prefer, or is there a specific training program that they must undergo before they can start dealing? Yeah.
Most definitely. We take 19 and up, and I think our youngest volunteer might be 21, 22 at training time. 30 hours of training, which I know when I started was like 30 hours of training, but I've just finished the training myself, and it's a very specialized group of volunteers, and these two folks with me here today are two of our very special people. Our volunteers are top shelf, and I know everybody says that, but here in North America we don't like to talk about death, and we don't want to sit around people who are dying. But we have we have over 100 volunteers that visit in-home, for example, dealing with clients sitting at bedsides of people who are actively dying. It takes a very special person to do that. Yeah. And so it's a very strict training program. It's a very strict recruitment and screening process. It has to be, because if you have someone who's dying in your home, a loved one, you're going to want someone who's specially trained. We're not medical in any way at all, but we are there as a compassionate heart, as in Heart House.
Definitely. And the two of you obviously underwent that training. What did you learn in that training that, for example, you did not know beforehand?
They have to run through the type of things that we're going to run up against as a volunteer, and that's really hard to cover everything in advance because you just never know. I mean, I think Brenda's more of an in-house volunteer now. I have done that a little bit. I'm more involved in the day program now, in which clients come and see us, but everybody's different and there are different situations, and they just try to prepare us as best they can to handle things that may come up. So a lot of the technical things they'll talk about they don't necessarily cover everything, but I think that we also learn in the training that it's not so much about them dying. A lot of times it's about living and what life experiences they have left, because with our clients, if you ever came into the day program, you would hear them laughing and you'd see them smiling, and they're participating in things that they find fun, or they're playing cards and things of that nature. So it's not always just about the dying. I tend to think of it more about what's left in their life. And how about you?
So a lot of misconceptions in general surrounding people near their death, that we probably think of them as very depressed, probably don't talk much. And you, for example, Brenda, you obviously work with them either on a day-to-day basis or on a regular basis. What sort of impact are you making in their lives?
Each client is different, and each client is different from visit to visit. Mm-hmm. So as a volunteer, it's helpful to be adaptable, so you can meet the client where the client is at that particular time on that particular day. So it's some clients appreciate being able to speak about their illness and their destiny with someone other than a family member. Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to speak with someone from outside, but then other clients want to chat about anything other than what's going on. Sometimes as a volunteer, you are able to bring the outside world into them.
And how do the two of you, because I can just imagine that dealing with these people, does it ever become very depressing for yourself, and how do you kind of detach from that, when you leave, to separate and not bring that to your own home? Because I've had my own father deal with cancer, and it was very tough on me. I remember trying to struggle that and with university, and there were times it doesn't matter where I went, it was really tough to leave that at home, the problem. How do you guys manage to at the end when you're done volunteering to come away with it?
I think you certainly know that at some point in time, everybody's going to go through that. But at the same time, it does affect you. You just have to put it in perspective. But I go back to talking about what we're doing is more about their life and what's left of their life, as opposed to. So I think the benefits of what we do and the response that we get back from the clients is so powerful and so strong that it more than makes up for that. Like I would rather deal with somebody in that situation. It's all very honest, let's face it. There's no hidden agendas here. This is real life, this is reality. And you just put it in perspective. But I see the benefits as a volunteer far outweighing anything that they could do to me. I mean, it's a little suffering that I have to make a big difference in their life, and that's, I think, what keeps...
Well, it's amazing to try to see the positive in this sort of circumstance, and I think we need more of that instead of, And also, I would like to know, in terms of how Volunteer MBC has helped your hospice.
Oh, they certainly have. We have our volunteer recruitment ads on MBC, and we have a lot of people that come through that. Some people come through, they're not sure what we're all about, and when they hear what we are, they're like, whoa, I can't do that. But then because it's not for everybody, and I didn't think it was for me when I started either, but we've got some excellent quality people through Volunteer MBC for sure, and we continue to every day. And I think it's a great resource for people. I've been in the volunteer management field for 27 years, and volunteer centers are amazing because it gives people a clearinghouse, for lack of a better term, and so they can look at all kinds of different things of what they think they might like to do, and they might not have ever thought about hospice. And so what we're able to put on their site, it's an awesome resource for people that they provide, and Heart House Hospice is excited to be a member of that and to participate in it. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and it probably makes it easier for you guys as well, because you don't have to shuffle through. The turnover rate is probably a lot less.
Yeah, because it's some screening as well that has taken place, right? And like Alan said, sometimes we get sad. You can't not get sad with what happens, but we try to make people live until they die.
Yeah,
it's all about living until you die.
It's a beautiful way of saying it, actually, a beautiful way to end the show. So thank you guys for coming. And of course, you can find more about Volunteer MBC on their website. On behalf of everyone here at Rogers TV, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you guys. That was awesome.